is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
Those sweet guitar riffs means it's time for Seeing Red. Mark and Joe here. The team is doing very well. As Joe and I were saying earlier today on a text chat, it feels very different. The Red Bulls got wet, and then they got 3 points on a very rainy night in Harrison as the unbeaten start to 2024 continues at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Inside the show, we'll go inside the 2-1 home win over FC Dallas last Saturday night. Bull of the week, of course. Some changes to Red Bull Arena, which I thought were pretty much all positive. But it's not all peaches and cream because international call-ups are coming just at the wrong time when Miami is coming in next week, and it will make for a very different look at what we'll see out of the Red Bulls. We'll preview the New York's stiffest test yet, and that is a trip to lower.com field and the champions of MLS Cup, Columbus Crew, this weekend. We have an interview with amNewYork's Joe Pantorno, which I know you'll enjoy, and then we've got your emails. I'm Mark, he's Joe. Like the show, subscribe to the show.
Smash that like button.
Smash the subscribe button. Our subscriber numbers continue to grow on YouTube. We're very happy about it. I personally take it as a validation of my own personal self-worth. So please like us and subscribe to us on Facebook. I'm Mark, he's Joe. How are you, sir?
I'm good. And, you touched on it earlier that I don't know how to feel because I'm so positive on the team right now. Luckily, the internationals call-ups back in, and we're surely to experience injuries and the like. So
yeah.
So
temper your enthusiasm. Let's get into a great night at Red Bull Arena. This was a night where I think everyone who was at the arena was pleasantly surprised at the number of fans that made the trip to Harrison on what was a dreadful night. With Dante Van Zier out, Sandy Claus went to a 4-2-3-1, and the flexibility in the lineup to be able to play 2 forwards or 1 forward, I think, is going to serve New York very well. What's also serving very well, obviously, is Emil Forsberg, who continues to show out. John Tolkien continues to improve his play, floated a ball into Morgan's path, was knocked over, kind of sold it, earned a penalty kick, which Forsberg converted very well. Pius for Dallas is a very good goalkeeper and guessed correctly, but Forsberg's ball made it a 1-0 Red Bull lead 30 minutes in. And then after the half, it was this goal was the work of art that we have been very much missing with this team since 2019. I mean, Amaya whirling out of trouble, a full 360 heading in a different direction. Manuel's picture perfect touch up to Forsberg with the slide over to Lewis Morgan. Joe, I mean, I like out of my seat, like just fantastic, beautiful flowing soccer.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It was maybe made out of the rain that was falling, because Manuel so deftly touched that ball into Forsberg's path. But whatever the case may be, it was a glorious counterattack, and we haven't seen that in so long, and it feels really good for Lewis Morgan to finish that because the injury season that he had last year, this was the kind of goal he was known for.
Yeah.
So I really, really dug it. And Amaya was really all over the pitch. I think that they were missing the first and second choice center mids. So, maybe don't take this with a lot of well, take this with a grain of salt. But I think that he's really matured this year, and only going to get better.
Yeah, he and Edelman continue to impress week after week, and up to nothing with 35 minutes left to play, you start to think this game is over. And the Red Bulls concede on a very, very strange ball where Coronel is screaming at his defense to set the wall up the way he wants it. And Jesus Ferreira, King of the Caribbean, as we know, puts the ball, just tucks it in on the other side of the wall. And I have to say, for all of the money that Apple has invested into high def broadcasts and great announcers, the one angle that we were missing, Joe, was the one that MSG had all the time, which was behind the
Yes.
goal, that would
Yeah.
have completely and easily saw exactly what happened. Apple's cameras didn't really capture the bend of Ferreira's free kick or really know why it was so difficult for Coronel to save. And I guess we never will unless someone had a camera up in the roof, the way that Atlanta United does with some of their very cool replays. But sitting behind that goal, it was shocking and very well placed by Ferreira, who we have to remember is a national team player,
Yes.
and made the rest of the game a little janky. Dallas really poured it on. Coronel had this very kind of slow motion-y save on a header about a minute from full 90 that he had to make. It was one of only 2 shots on goal from Dallas the entire night. And I mean, it was for the fans that were there. And again, the announced attendance was over 19,000. There weren't that many in the park, to be sure. But this was a solid crowd on an awful night that turned out it was a perfect ending for New York to be able to walk out of there with 3 points.
Let me rewind something for
Sure.
you. The goal that set up our nerves didn't it didn't have to happen. Kyle Duncan
Yes.
foolishly pulled down Jesus Ferreira.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere for him to go. That there were bodies in defense, and it's a stupid play.
Yeah. It's a bonehead
And
play.
yeah, I expect better from him.
Yep.
I'm sure that Sandy Claus read him the riot act after. But yeah, I think that overall this game, it was it was. I wanted to see New York, and it's twice now for the Houston game and Dallas, where I wanted to see them control the ball and make Dallas or Houston chase the game, and it never got there. I suppose. Corey Burke had flashes at times, but it's. I expect for him to be able to hold up the ball at the very least, and absent of that, I don't know why he's seeing the field at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a situation where it's just that, where Schwar's thinking that, he's my big guy, he's going to hold it up. I mean, he was a whisker offside. Being in the stadium, they didn't show it for what could have been the game-ending goal, Joe.
Being in the or watching it home,
Yes.
it didn't show it either.
They didn't show the replay?
So there's a really quick replay of the offside, but it's not at a good angle to
Got it.
determine.
All right.
So
Well, that's a bummer.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. And to be fair, Burke's coming off injury, and this was his
yeah, that's
first
true.
team minutes in a while, and the conditions were crap. They were certainly a lot better at Red Bull Arena than they were at Subaru Park in Philly, where the match actually had to be canceled because their field couldn't handle it. But as always, one of the best field conditions in MLS. Annually, they win every type of turf award, and the field just absorbed. It wasn't puddling. The ball wasn't skipping any more than on a typical wet day. Just a lot of good things to talk about. The team is tied for the best ever start in club history. This team in 29 years has never won 3 out of the gate. They've won two wins and a draw. I think this is the 5th time they've done it. And they come into this week of MLS tied with 4 teams at the top of the East and tied with 6 teams at the top of the Shield table. And yes, we're going to talk about things getting tougher over the next few weeks for sure. Yeah. And yes, the team has played 2 or 3 games away, and they are, I think, for most fans, ahead of schedule in terms of where they need, what we've seen from them so far in the table. So let's go to Bull of the Week. For me, it might not be challenging for you to come up with one. Let's see who yours is.
Emil Forsberg.
Yes, same.
I think that was a glorious home debut. I struggle to think of a better home debut by a player of this team.
2010 and Joel Impair, baby.
Oh yeah, that's
with
true.
The goal over Chicago to start it all off.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, this was Forsberg announcing himself, noting that he was quote unquote saving the goal for the home fans. Again, saying all the right things, celebrating with the South Ward after the goal. A very wet South Ward, I might add. Yes, Emil Forsberg, the first of many Bulls of the week, my friend. I want to talk about Red Bull Arena. I was there. I know that you were not. We saw. I think a lot of folks, and myself included, feared what an LED light experience might be. The team did put up on the scoreboards that, they're for light sensitive fans. The upcoming light show may have an effect on you. I don't know what those fans were supposed to do other than run into the bathroom.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, the show that was produced, and the fact that these lights in the stadium, all the stadium lights are now LED, which means they can be flipped on and off. They don't have to warm up. And the effect of the red tint throughout the stadium, the light sticks that were given away to all the fans. It was really fun and impactful. And I didn't notice as much on the Red Bull goals, the flashing. I think what they did was they were staggering the lights back and forth across the field, so you weren't losing all the light. But nevertheless, really, really well done, and great job for the front office and for the operations team in particular, pulling this off. What you may or may not have seen on the broadcast was the top 7 rows of every section in the 200s were tarped off, right? And so you and I are both old enough to remember where everything on the north end of the stadium, the entire sections were tarped off. They've changed it now. And what the team said in a press release is that doing that will move the fans closer to the action. They're not going to sell those seats in particular until the rest of the sections are sold out. And so you definitely saw fans all the way around the stadium, which I think makes some sense. There may be in the future a physical redo of those sections at the top of each of the sections. I don't know exactly what they're planning there, but it's something to watch. And if this team continues to win, they're going to be able to pull those back with some regularity. But again, I thought it was a great event. It felt like a big game. It was a big game, and I think it looked great. We had mentioned this earlier in the show. When your teams are playing well, and your players are playing well, they get noticed. And so we learned today that both Emil Forsberg and Noah Ayla have been called up to the Swedish national team and U21 team, respectfully, over the international break, during which Inter Miami will come to the Red Bulls. And so while for a time we had said to ourselves, well, great, we're not, Messi's not going to be there. This is going to be fantastic. Now we have two suddenly very important pieces for New York that won't be there as well. And also consider, and I tip our hat to our friend Daniel Rebane, who posted these on Twitter earlier today, that there are US U23 match during the window that may take John Tolkin away. And of course, Paraguay might have a match that may pull Carlos Coronel away. And so I think a lot of Red Bull fans were like, yay, international break. No Messi. We might beat Miami. Are now like, no, boo, international break. All of our important players are going away. So I just want to add before I get your thoughts, like, it's a double-edged sword when you're signing DPs.
Yeah.
And we really haven't had to deal with this a whole lot over the course of the last few years when you're not signing meaningfully important players to their national teams. Of course, Coronel's been part of Paraguay for a couple of years now, and we did see CCJ leave for Venezuela a number of times while he was here, and Tolkin played his way into Greg's lineup as well at times. But it's not like there's another young Forsberg as a depth player on this team, and they're going to have to play really differently when he's not here.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that it was Hans Backe that said, I would never sign an international player again because of how often the MLS plays in the window. And yeah, I guess it's come back to bite us. I think that Montreal laid a blueprint, and I think that the rest of the MLS has to follow it. Absorb, counter. And, even with those players gone, the top of the Red Bulls lineup is like crazy fast and can break for counters. So I looked forward to that game plan, but 'tis another time.
Yes, we'll get to that next week. And consider that we've yet to see Dennis Yangur play for the Red Bulls. And if you're talking about counterattacking speed, he's got it in spades. So let's focus on Columbus. Saturday at 7:30, the Red Bulls visit reigning MLS Cup champion Columbus Crew in another old school 96er. And before we take a look at that, let's take a look at this. And let's take a look at Columbus's unbelievable 2023. The team finished 16-9-9 for third in the East, and then they sacked all over LAFC in a fantastically very satisfying MLS Cup. Last season, they had the best attack in MLS, and a lot of that starts and ends with Cucho Hernandez and Yaboa, and we'll get into the players in a second. They scored 67 times in 34 matches with the best attack in MLS, and not only that, their stadium at lower.com was the absolute kind of fortress that we want to see out of Red Bull Arena. In 2024, the team was 3-0-2. Oh, I'm sorry. And so far, so they had a fantastic season last year, and this year they've kind of picked up exactly where they left off, which is 3-0-2 in all comps. And can keep in mind that they are playing. They've made it to the round of 8 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's right. Into the club this year is midfielder Marino Henestrosa, a Colombian that comes to the club from Pachuca. Talking about reloading, Derek Jones came to the club from Charlotte FC, and departing in the offseason was Kevin Molino and Julian Gressel, who, of course, is now carrying Leo Messi's water down in Miami. The team is again on the third match of an 8-day stretch, since they do have Champions League. They've actually been playing 2 games a week for the last 2 weeks. Late last Saturday, late, like 10 minutes in extra time, Mo Farsi gets the game winner at home against Chicago Fire. And then just last night, as we record on Wednesday, a 1-1 draw in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Houston was enough to get the Columbus Crew into the final 8 in that tournament, where they will take on Tigres, which is not an easy assignment at all. And again, Cucho with the goal. Let's talk overarching about Columbus. They hired, as we know, former Montreal boss Wilfred Nancy, and he has completely transformed the club. Gone are the tactics that Caleb Porter bought. Nancy has fresh ideas into the club. Columbus is often flying, and they are an attractive team to watch play. They can possess, they can counter. They have Darlington Nagbe on this team, who holds down the middle of the central defense at his advanced age, and they've become a perennial favorite now. As Nancy is going to certainly be leveraging the success he's had into his next gig. And Cucho Hernandez has been a revelation for Columbus. They've needed a proven striker for years. He has 36 goals in 58 appearances for Columbus Crew. Let's take a little bit of a look at the last 2 lineups. There's been a lot of squad rotation as Nancy is looking to keep his players as fresh as he possibly can. Subs in the both of the subs, Russell Rowe and Mo Farsi in the win against Chicago, scored, and then Cucho got his goal and then got off the field after an hour. Cucho has 3 goals in the 5 2024 matches for the Crew. Again, they're undefeated with a 3-0-2 mark in all comps. They beat Atlanta 1-0 on a Cucho goal. They drew Minnesota at Allianz on a 95th minute goal by the Loons, offsetting a Cucho goal. Russell Rowe and Mo Farsi, as you can see, against Chicago, get the win. They then went down to Houston in the Champions Cup, and Alexander Matan got a 96th minute goal to give them the win. And then Cucho last night with a 40th minute goal, and Houston had a 90th minute penalty kick. When thinking about Wilfred Nancy's lineup, as you can see here, it's a 3-4-2-1. Patrick Schulte was an absolute revelation coming up from Crew 2 last year. He had 9 clean sheets and allowed 53 goals in 38 games. This year, he already has 2 clean sheets out of their 5. Steven Moreira is one of the 3 center backs with a goal and 5 assists last year. Rudy Camacho, a Frenchman, with a goal last year. Malte Amundsen, who we may remember from NYCFC, had 5 and 2 last year. Max Arfsten, a young American with 3 goals and 2 assists. Aiden Morris is on this team, who really leveled up his game last year with 4 and 4. There's Darlington Nagbe with 4 goals and 2 assists. Yaya Boa is a Ghanaian speedster on the left with 5 and 6. Jason Russell Rowe had 4 and 2 last year. Diego Rossi, former LAFC, had 5 and 5 when he arrived. And up top, Cucho Hernandez, 23 goals and 10 assists. This is a team, obviously, as an old school 96er. This is the 92nd meeting between the 2 teams. It's been pretty even over 28 plus years. Columbus slightly ahead in the all-time all competitions numbers. And the Red Bulls have done, you can argue, marginally well in Columbus in the past. 15, 24, and 7 there. The last time these 2 teams played was last year, a 2-1 loss at Columbus. The last win in Columbus came only 3 years ago, with CCJ and Sean Nealis getting the game winner. BWP, 8th all-time in goals, and 5 active players currently with 1 goal. Joe, this is the toughest assignment that New York has had so far this year. I'm curious what your thoughts might be in terms of what New York's going to do, especially if, as we heard reporting earlier from Joe Pantorno this week, that Dante Vanzier is fit and should be ready to go.
Well, it largely has to do with dictating or being dictated. the Columbus Crew like to hold possession in the opposition end of the field and choke you, essentially. Um, it seems like a direct affront to New York's ability this year, which was largely possession based early on in the game, build a lead and then defend it. I'm not I'm not too hopeful with this one because anyone who's watched the Crew over the season and the playoffs last year, um, they know that they like to score late goals, and you can never quit on them.
Yeah.
So it is it's primed to be um, uh, squeaky bum time if they go up at all, New York. But I think this should be like uh, a game where they disrupt as much as possible. Um, there's the link between um, Cucho and his midfielders. They have to disrupt that as much as possible. And by doing so, you'll see the chances go away. But like I said, New York cannot fall asleep because they will be punished.
Yeah, and late as you said, I mean, consider they've conceded twice in 5 games this season after the 90th minute, and they've scored twice deep into injury time. So, I mean, this is a team that also is going to be a little frayed. Again, they've been playing 3 games a week for the last 2 weeks, right? They've been playing every 3 games, every 3 days for the last 2 weeks. And so for New York, and yes, they're all pros, but at a certain point, things are just going to get a little janky for them.
Yeah.
And especially in a high intensity game. So for me, it's all about keeping it close, making the right substitutions. And to be fair, I think Schwartz has done a wonderful job with his substitutions so far. But I think, I mean, for New York to be even or up a goal at the 90th minute, like that's when the game really starts for these guys. And so they're just going to have to be prepared to suffer. Let's go to predictions. Fewer games to predict as there's so many intra-conference games. Chicago, perhaps hard done, giving up 100th minute goal at Columbus last week. They have Montreal at Soldier Field.
I think Montreal are the road warriors. I tip it towards them.
Okay, after beating Miami, they're going to feel real good. Troy Lissane's DC United has Inter Miami.
It depends on who plays. If it's the kids, not going to go Troy Lissane's way, but I predict a draw.
Keep in mind, Miami plays tonight as we speak against Nashville in the second leg of their round of 16 CONCACAF Cup tie. Those games are Saturday at 2 p.m. Once again, we get multiple windows. And also keep in mind, all MLS games are free this weekend, whether or not you're an MLS Season Pass subscriber. So get in and take a look. At 7:30, we'll have our game, but also City, who got so hard done. Giving up a 97th minute worldie to Portland last week. They have a very surprising Toronto FC in the Bronx. I think maybe it's Queens. Who knows?
I gotta say that I'm tipping it more towards Toronto.
Yeah,
because NYC have a lot of talent, but they don't play as a team. But Keaton Parks said Saturday or Sunday, or whatever, that he was emphatic that the team sees out the game. And should it trickle down to the team, I think that it's a draw.
We shall see. It seems like Toronto's Italians are actually really enjoying playing for John Herdman. And that,
Yeah.
I mean, if they show the way that they were brought into the team to play, you could have another very, very tough Eastern rival here. At 8:30, Philadelphia, who got blown out last night in the CONCACAF Champions League by Pachuca, I believe, 6-0. They go to Texas and tango with Josh Wolf's Austin FC.
You know, when you go all in on CONCACAF and then it blows up in your face and you're sitting at 0-3, you have to win a game. I'm not sure that Austin is the place to do it.
Okay. Nashville, after playing Miami tonight in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they welcome Charlotte FC to Jodis.
I think another tie.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sunday at 2, the awful Revs host Cincinnati. Awful. Winless.
Draw.
Okay. 7:00 on Sunday, Atlanta and Orlando tangle, and Orlando got smacked 4-2 by Tigres last night. They're out of the Open Cup as well. Atlanta had a hat trick from Yakimakis last week, and they look like they're getting back off the mat.
Yeah, I'll pick Atlanta.
Okay. And finally, our match, 7:30 on Saturday night on MLS Season Pass from Lower.com Field. The Red Bulls visit Columbus Crew.
You know, Mark?
Yes. Tell me.
I have to play the classics.
Okay.
1-1.
1-1. You're bringing it back. I think the magic runs out on the Red Bulls here in the start to their season. I'm going to call this a 2-1 loss, and I think that Red Bull fans will be content knowing that they played well. It just didn't work out for them. When we're back on Seeing Red, we welcome to the show for the first time Joe Pantorno of amNewYork. So keep it here, won't you? Thanks. We are back on Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Red Bulls are flying high with 7 from 9 after the first 3 games, and now the stakes get even higher as they get ready to go to see the champs at Columbus, and we're very, very happy for the first time on Seeing Red to welcome Joe Pantorno, the sports editor at amNewYork, to the show. Joe, welcome to Seeing Red, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a part of the show. I've obviously heard nothing but good things over the years, but to be a guest, and especially on a benchmark 15th season,
boy.
I am truly honored. So thank you for having me.
The honor is all ours. Just about everything seems to be going right for New York. They had a really large crowd on a dreary night at Red Bull Arena. What has stood out for you so far as the reasons for this quick start for the team?
I mean, I don't want to be too obvious and point to the really one glaring example, but I really do believe it is Emil Forsberg, who has provided such a calming and dangerous playmaking presence. I mean, what a difference it makes when you truly bring in a proven quality player to sort of pull the strings here. Couple that with Lewis Morgan returning, and I'm not sure if it's being talked enough, but the intensity that Sandro Schwarz has preached since he's arrived, I really do think that mentality does go a long way here. And if you have your locker room sort of buying in and everybody pulling on the same rope in the same direction, you start to kind of see the start that they've put together. 7 out of 9 points is pretty darn good for a team who really struggled. Obviously, everybody knows at the start of last season.
Yeah, and it really speaks to just how one or two players can make such a difference on a team. And yes, you obviously mentioned Forsberg, a big reason for the team's success. Lewis Morgan is almost like getting a new player, right? He was so important to the 2022 success of the team, and now having someone like Forsberg to feed him, and it really for me it was on the winning goal Saturday night, right? You have a terrific play. Amaya spins away from a dangerous situation, gets it to Manuel. And, I think while Red Bull fans have been waiting for Manuel to really mature into the forward that I think everyone is hoping he is. I mean, he played an absolutely perfect ball into the stride of Forsberg, who of course went over to Morgan for the finish. Talk to us in general about the young players on the team that you've seen that have impressed for you so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say you almost forget that Elias Manuel is so young. And there is a certain amount of pressure that is being heaped on him and Dante Van Zier for, from a fan base that has been kind of clamoring for this true number 9 for a few years now. And really kind of how vital that would be to the Red Bulls postseason hopes if they can really get one of their forwards kind of clicking on all cylinders. But this is a team, again, that has preached developing their young players. This has sort of been their MO the last few years, and I could see them potentially on the cusp of kind of bearing that fruit sooner rather than later. I mean, the way Daniel Edelman has played over the last year is remarkable in itself, and obviously John Token has, again, that kind of goes without saying, just the upward trajectory that he's on, where I think we're all sort of eyeing the possibility of him being a member of the 2026 U.S. National World Cup team. I mean, this is the kind of talent that he brings. So obviously, again, the big names here are Forsberg and Morgan, but this is a lot of promising young talent that's sort of being dotted around them and that are going to play a really supporting, vital role to kind of ensure that the Red Bulls aren't just a one-trick pony. I mean, Noah Ayla, if I'm saying that right, I really hope that I am. He's proven that he is a really kind of solid distributing defender on the back line there, which kind of adds another dimension to, not just New York's kind of stout defensive game at the back, but potentially, again, flourishing offensively. Again, for a team that is still kind of waiting for that number 9 to sort of emerge, just to kind of have these playmaking threats along the roster and maybe not in the most traditional roles, it's only going to help.
Yeah. It also helped, I think, the fact that Schwarz was able to rejigger his lineup against a Dallas team that was missing a lot of pieces. We've now seen them win games with 2 forwards. We've now seen them win a game with a single forward. You had broken the news earlier this morning that Dante Van Zier may be back and healthy in time for Columbus. And it really is, I think, a challenge for Schwarz to be able to figure out, his personnel on the field and what we're all now waiting. It's into the second season for Van Zier. Are you hopeful that he can turn it around? Is this a situation where he may find himself on the outside of a regular starting gig?
It sort of feels like if he can't get it together now, or else I'll say this season, give him a little bit of a cushion here. It might not happen for him because, again, when you have such playmaking talent in the midfield, opportunities are going to be open for him. Same thing with Manuel here. So in theory, the intangibles are there. We kind of saw a glimpse of it in the season opener against Nashville, how, again, he played that ball down from Ayla and he kind of worked his chance and, he did everything right, but put the ball in the net. He hit the post.
Yeah.
Maybe the conversation's a tiny bit different if he does score there. But it sort of seems like, at least for now, it's a wait and see kind of game that the Red Bulls are playing with him. Understanding kind of what they invested in him, understanding the pedigree and where he's coming from the top flight in Belgium. This is a guy where, all intents and purposes should be one of the solutions to this problem up front.
Yeah, for sure. The stakes get higher this Saturday night. New York has had a number of teams, right? They had Nashville, who's dealing with Champions Cup. They have Houston, who's dealing with Champions Cup. They have Dallas, who's dealing with 6 starters that were out in some form or another. And now they go and take on a Columbus team, also taking part in Champions Cup. And so I'm just kind of curious what your general thoughts are going into this match.
Regardless of them, maybe having some outside attention being placed elsewhere, this is a wonderful measuring stick, in my opinion, for the Red Bulls here, where, okay, they took 7 out of 9. Now you're going into the house of the defending champions. What can you really do here? And if you play even an iota of maybe what was seen in the first half against Dallas or how they controlled proceedings against Nashville, there is no reason why there should be an abundance of optimism here for this team, because I think we all kind of know what Columbus can do and obviously what they're capable of, even though, again, they are in different competitions and they might not be fielding, their full 100% side here. This is, again, a really golden opportunity to lay the groundwork for some major momentum.
You committed the cardinal sin of seeing red, which to say there's no reason, which is code for jinxing the team. So you have hexed them. We'll all know who to blame.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the crowd on Saturday night. I mean, this was a night to stay in under warm blankets and not venture outside and watch the game from the comforts of your own home. I was really blown away by the amount of people that had tickets and showed up for, frankly, an entertaining match, an exciting match with, Dallas obviously made it interesting, but they were loud. They were into it. I thought the light show before the game was really impressive. I didn't see a lot of people in press row, though, and I know that there are those are the seats that are closest to the field and more exposed to the elements. Were you guys watching from the press room the whole game? What happened?
Yeah, so as luck would have it, the rain really sort of picked up the closer we got to game time, and you sort of scout press row, and as of course luck would have it, the rain was driving actually perfectly diagonally right into the press box. So there was no way that I was going to sit there with my laptop, because I don't need to buy a new one now. But obviously the PR team was very accommodating, and they had towels for us if we wanted to go out there, and some did brave the elements. Kudos to them. But I was sort of moving around the stadium and doing some work in the press room, but making sure that I was kind of out for the first few minutes of the game to just kind of take in the atmosphere. And it really was I was really impressed, and I've only kind of been on this beat less than a year, but the production value I hadn't seen. There was the light shows and pyrotechnics, and it kind of had all the feelings of sort of like an FA Cup game at Wembley Stadium for a few minutes there.
It's a bold statement, my friend.
Yes,
bold statement. What does it mean in a time when the majority of the major market media is not necessarily paying attention to MLS or soccer at all, but certainly not to the local MLS teams? What is it about amNewYork that has provided you, allowed you, compelled you to come out and be a regular beat writer for this club?
So I'll try to make a very long story as short as possible. amNewYork, we are the largest free daily paper in the city. We are the number 3 most circulated newspaper in the city. And basically I am a one-man band for the most part for our section. So for those who have been familiar with me before, I was always a baseball guy. I cover the New York Mets regularly. I actually was just accepted into the Baseball Writers Association of America.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank you very much. Big season coming up. And I cover the New York Islanders as well, but I'm also responsible for the coverage of the 8, big 4 sports teams here around the city.
Wow.
And obviously, the soccer clubs here, and the Liberty with the WNBA. And now we're adding PWHL New York as well. So I was always a soccer fan growing up. I can't say that I followed the Red Bulls closely, but I will say that, while my resources are pretty thin and limited, I think everybody deserves a chance, and everybody deserves their coverage, especially when, again, you are a major professional sports franchise representing the New York market. So, I always wanted to kind of dip my pen into the soccer waters, and the Red Bulls themselves have been incredibly accommodating. And again, some of the fans and the personalities and the players that I've come in contact with have been nothing but incredibly hospitable. So it's been very easy for me to come back and sort of build, towards the beat status, if you will.
How would you describe in general MLS players in comparison to some of the other perhaps larger leagues players in terms of friendliness, openness, accessibility?
Very, very accommodating, very friendly. I have not come in contact with a soccer player or a member of the Red Bulls that I have kind of come away thinking that they were, conceited or full of themselves or, pompous in any way. Very receptive, which is, of course, any sports writer's dream. And again, it's made it pretty easy to, to kind of gain some steam on this coverage. Because, I'll be honest with you, when I first came here, I didn't know a whole lot about the Red Bulls. And I'm still learning. And, obviously any fans or supporters who want to see something or want coverage on something, we're always open. Doors always open, inbox is always open. So by all means, drop a line, and I'll do my best here.
That's a perfect transition, Joe. Thank you so much for coming to Seeing Red. How can fans find you and your work?
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter at Joe Pantorno. It's just my name, just smushed together. You can find all of my work at amNewYork, which is amny.com. And if you live in New York City, you can go to any of your local distribution centers. We have plenty of boxes around the city, and you can pick up a edition for free.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining. We've got more Seeing Red coming up after this short break. Yes.
That's so anti-Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
But it's so it rocks so hard.
It does rock. It does rock. And I thanks again for Mark 7 for pulling that together for us, and for TJ Bryan with the new show open using that musical clip. We'd love to hear from you. Your emails have been so good this year so far, this season, and we're really happy to read them on the air. So please don't be shy. If you've never written before and you're listening and you're enjoying the show, even if you really are not enjoying the show, we'd like to hear that too. We want to hear how to make it better. Just no bad language, please, because the kids are listening. Email us anytime at seeingredny@gmail.com. Joe, maybe I'll take the first and you take the second. How about that?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Here's Jacob Rosenquag, who wrote, Dear Goldfish, thank you for all you've done over the years to keep Red Bull fans informed and entertained. You are very welcome. Before the season began, I was surprisingly optimistic about the team's chances of making the playoffs and maybe even finishing top 4 in the East. It'd be nice to add another attacking piece, but if we manage to stay healthy, I think the team might surprise a few people, including the experts at MLSsoccer.com, who predicted an average finish of 9th in the conference. I'm writing to you to ask about the parking situation at Red Bull Arena. I know the lots are privately owned. The main lot we always park in has raised the event rate from $20 to $30. When Red Bull Arena opened, the rate was $10. We sure have come a long way by then. Would you happen to know any of less expensive parking alternatives within reasonable walking distance to Red Bull Arena? That's Jacob Rosenquag, season ticket holder since 2008. Yes, things have gotten more expensive, Joe. Are you aware?
Yeah, I'm aware, and much to my chagrin, they keep going up.
Yeah.
um, I know that uh, it's not like the sexiest answer, but maybe you can park in New York and path over. Um, I know that I, I didn't. I don't know that the rebuilt station all that well, but I know that can get tricky when leaving. But um, you're sure to find cheaper parking in Newark.
Yeah, I would say that's a great idea. In early days of Red Bull Arena, we actually parked at the Hilton Hotel parking lot in Newark and then just walked in and took the path over one stop. Of course, then you're dealing with traffic. You can also park along the road on the Esplanade on the Ironbound side. There is a parking garage a few blocks into the Ironbound. If you're willing to do that, that is definitely less expensive. Listen, enjoy paying the $30 now, because what's going to happen soon is that whole lot is slated for development, and
Yeah,
there are plans for a 20-story hotel and more mixed use retail, commercial, residential that will take that entire parcel away. And I don't even know what it's going to be like. I mean, it might be biking there. It's going to be, it's really going to be a challenge. And once the gravel lot is developed, they're really going to have a mess on their hands. So yeah, I mean, again, trying in the Ironbound, everything. I guess it's west of Newark Penn. There are some lots there. It just requires, you asked Jacob about a reasonable walking distance.
yeah.
If 15 minutes is reasonable, if you're parked in the outer edge of MetLife Stadium, it's taking you 15 minutes to get to your car. So, but we feel your pain. Joe's got this next email from Rich K.
Hello, Mark and Joe. Pleased to see strong fan turnout despite awful weather. So windy, plastic police barricade blew into me on the
Oh
way to the
gosh.
game.
Yikes.
Team continues to play better combination play, and so unusual to have two acquisitions contributing so strongly and consistently.
Agreed.
Do hope we can keep Eel for at least a couple of years. Would give Bull of the match to all the fans who turned out and were loud throughout. Plus, kudos to the grounds crew for a playable surface, unlike the ridiculous water world, the USWNT semifinal. Yeah, that was
That was
gross.
terrible. That was awful.
Of the players, Forsberg gets the bull for finding the home woodwork so much friendlier and a very nice assist. Plus, glad to see Morgan nearly full strength and scoring like he used to. Also, nice surprise today from the club to send an email thank you for coming to the rain game along with discount for April matches. Good to have early opponents with key injuries to give the team time to fully mesh with the new coach's approach. Here's to a great season. Always enjoy the pod. All the best, Rich.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. That's a great note. Earlier in the week, Marc de Grand Pré wrote to all Red members who attended the match and say, "Here's $10 in arena bucks for you, just to thank you for coming out." That's a classy move, and certainly, while some fans would have preferred it that credit to be larger, come on, right? This is a. I don't like the free stuff the club gives me. I want different free stuff. I think that's a great move, and apparently anyone who attended who may not be a Red member, as I think Rich is, thank you for the discount if you buy tickets to another match coming up in April. Really, really brilliant, trying to build the continued good feeling that has been going on through the club. And yeah, I think we agree. We gave Forsberg our bowl. So absolutely. Joe, why don't you take the next one and then
Thank
I'll
you,
finish.
Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you. John Hoffler says, "Howdy, Mark and Joe. First, I wanted to thank you for your excellent work. I'm a relatively new fan starting to watch the team before the 2022 season.
Wow.
And wow. And your excellent podcast helped me learn about and love the team. Second, I had the opportunity this summer to attend a game at Red Bull Arena for the first time.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could share any recommendations you have for the game day experience, things to do before the game, best sections to sit in, best food in the arena, sightseeing close by, etc. Thanks and keep up the good work. Go Red Bulls. Best, John."
That is, first of all, new fans coming to the team is amazing. Making your first trip to Red Bull Arena is even more amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of sightseeing before the game, I think that's probably best done in Manhattan, because the train link will get you from one place to the other in about 25 minutes. And I would definitely explore Lower Manhattan, the Freedom Tower, World Trade Center. I'd go to the World Financial Center, and there are some great museums down Lower Manhattan to check out. I can only share my experience. Before the game, there's a host of activities that happen in front of the stadium called the Boulevard. They're definitely more aligned towards young kids, with games and pickup and shooting drills and fun win a prize things. The team has done a nice job to build out what's called the Crossbar, which is on the north side of the stadium. Yes, the north side of the stadium, where they do have live music now before, I think, every game. There was a really tight band playing the other night for the home opener. It's a chance for you to kind of sit outside and play like outdoor bar games a little bit. Best sections to sit in. I mean, there is not a bad seat in Red Bull Arena.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's no best section. It's wherever you can find a seat, wherever you want to watch from. There are some fans that prefer to be right close to the field. There are other fans that prefer to be a little higher up so they can see the plays develop, but you can't go wrong. Best food in the arena. I mean, as someone that eats a limited diet, I'll tell you that I tried the farro salad Saturday night, and it was amazing. And it was pricey. It was like $16, but it was a ton of food. Brussels sprouts and butternut squash and farro and spinach and a delicious dressing and craisins. Like, it was really, really good. There are folks that really go for sausage and peppers. There are folks that go for burgers. There's chicken and waffles that you can get. There's sushi and noodles and tacos and empanadas. Yes, from our former friends at Brisas. And Joe, is there a part of a game day tradition or ritual that you do?
It involves eating locally. So,
so where do you eat? Oh, locally near the house before you come.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. For years, I had an eggplant parm sandwich before every game, and it turned out that wasn't helping.
So you've switched it up, and now you're having a.
I don't know.
All right. But again, John, there's food choices that are, somewhat limited in the Harrison area near the stadium. We wish there was more. If you go into the Ironbound, there are amazing Portuguese and Spanish restaurants. If you go into Newark, there's a Rio Dizio and Dinosaur Barbecue, and there's lots of choices that you can make. None is better than the others. I think it's really your personal choice. But listen, thank you for the note. We can't wait to hear about your experience at Red Bull Arena. So please, when you know which match you're going to, come and share. And lastly, our old friend, it's Jimmy Hoffa. Mark and Joe, my room under MetLife was flooded last night but I was able to catch the match. Gotta love the reception. Let's keep this short and simple. This team actually looks fun to watch now. The chaotic, pointless pressing is gone. There is possession. We're actually watching soccer. Sandro seems to be willing to experiment with different formations, and Forsberg has big Henry energy. Everyone looks better. Burke looks like he had gone back 10 years in age. Okay. It is up to the front office to finish their promise in the summer and get some depth and fill out the last international spot, if for nothing else but the fact that the season is just so long. Let's not settle for a playoff spot. Go out and win something or else be a contender. It almost makes you ask the question, what was the FO doing for the last 4 years or so? Almost as if there wasn't really an effort being made because they reversed the course of mediocrity in one window. That pisses me off.
Yeah.
Now, this is Jimmy talking, but that's for another day. Forsberg, a veteran with Euro experience, is exactly what the team needed. You cannot have a team of only 19-year-olds, and it's odd that Red Bull, a team that kind of pioneered that strategy to some success, forgot that. He's a leader both in skill and mentality out there. Yours in the wind and the rain, Jimmy Hoffa. Joe, thoughts on what were we doing for the last 5 years?
I don't know. I simply don't know. Maybe they had to make the team tank and tank
by making the playoffs every year.
But to garner a window like this, and it's still open.
Right, it is still currently open. Yes, for another 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, so maybe it gets done in the current window. More likely, it gets done in the summer window.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think that Red Bull hasn't made a down payment, and you have to follow through.
Earlier today, there was a story about that Forsberg was asked, and thank you, Jimmy, so much for the note. He was asked about, like, what happens next? And he said, well, I'm under contract for 3 years, and then, maybe I'd love to go back to Leipzig and coach, or maybe I'd like to do this. And some people got their nose out of joint a little bit by it. But, I mean, as with Henry, he's going to honor his contract. He is here 24, 25, and 26. And, we're going to benefit from everything that he has. And as he moves on in age, as Henry he was a little different because when he came in, he was a scorer. And by the time he left, he was setting the team up and generating assists that way. But I think we should really enjoy it while he's here. As for what they were doing the last 4 years, as Jimmy asked, I think it's an absolutely valid question to ask.
Yeah.
And I think it was, frankly, taking the fans for granted.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, you had a global pandemic while this period was going. And perhaps in the case of Red Bull, they said, until things really get back to normal, we're just going to float along, which is what they did. But as you know, we're paying customers and we want better, and the team needs a cup really badly. They won't have an open cup to play for this year. And so, here we are. So time moves in one direction, as I'm fond of saying, and enjoy this now. Enjoy this tie for a best ever start by this team. And let's enjoy a real test this Saturday night against Columbus, because the Miami game looks like it's going to really be, second chance Charlie kind of a match with kind of some dilapidated rosters taking part. And so I think we all just have to go out and understand that as the team continues to work through its 5 of 7 match away to start the season, they are way ahead of schedule. And I mean, they're tied for the Shield lead. There's literally nothing more that you can ask for from what we've seen so far.
And I want to remind you, just because that no rumors were swirling over the past 4 years, or not too many, they were trying to get guys. Ivan Toney was linked to the team, and He is a terrific striker.
Yep.
And, you know, I think that the history of the club would have been different with that striker and some more players.
With a striker. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. You're right. I mean, yes, but here we are now. The team is running on a ton of goodwill. They had a very large crowd for opening night on a night where no one should have been outside, frankly. And everyone was treated to an intense, beautiful attacking from the Red Bulls on the counterattack goal, stout defending, everyone playing up to the limit, as a former coach used to say, and just enjoy it. Yeah, because I think it's going to be a really fun season, and the optimism is abounding. I want to thank you all so much for listening and watching to Seeing Red through your earbuds or on YouTube. I will remind you, please, to like and subscribe to us, especially on YouTube. Smash the subscribe button. It doesn't take much. We're up in just over 5 weeks, so we have over 350 subscribers. We'd love to get that number north of 1,000. We know how many people watch and listen to the show. It literally takes 1 minute. Go to any one of our social outlets, find our link tree, get to our YouTube page, and off you go. Thank you so much to Joe Pantorno for stopping by, for TJ Bryan for the new theme, for Mark Semin for the music, for Zach Feldman for the stats, and for you for watching and listening. Joe calls Saturday night's match at lower.com field. 1-1. I'm going to call it a 2-1 loss. Don't be hating. Thank you so much for listening to episode 566 of Seeing Red. We'll be back next week. Good night, everyone. Oh, no, that's not. Wait, it's this one.